You're listening to the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. An hour of informative commentary on today's headlines, current events, and what's going on around the world and around the corner. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Jaye Darden.
All right, cool. Recording has started. Get notes going on here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Life in General podcast there with Tom and Jaye. We're coming at you here. It is the 25th of January, 2022. It feels like the year has already gone by because once it pops, the fun don't stop, right? So we're going to start this episode off the same way we do every time and ask the man of the hour how he is down there in sunny Ecuador. Down there in Playas, hanging out by the beach, catching coconuts as they fall down, and see what's up. So, hey, Dad, how are you?
I'm doing good, doing very good. The coconuts are falling from the trees, 77 degrees with a light sprinkle. So it's settling the dirt, settling the sand, washing a lot of things off. So that's a good thing. And usually when the sun comes up, it stops raining for some reason. I don't know if it's because we're on the coastline or what, but yep.
Yeah. Had you ever lived on a coastal town before this?
No.
So it is all new to you down there. That makes sense.
I always lived inland, way inland, like Tennessee inland, or Blytheville, Arkansas inland, or that's it.
I was going to say, if you're around Arkansas, that's not too far away from what is it, the Mississippi, right?
Yeah, Mississippi splits Tennessee and Arkansas. Yeah.
Right. So you were near some amount of water, just no coast there.
Yeah, my coastal town was Memphis.
Wonderful, yeah. I'm sure they think of them. It's a beach front property all the time, right?
Yeah, that's a bluff city, man. Sitting up on the bluff, waiting on the river to rise. That's right.
There you go.
No, I never have ever experienced anything like this. It's pretty interesting. So,
it is different, I'm sure, and also the daylight savings time thing is starting to. Well, I was going to say it's starting to get to me a little bit, but now we're on the uptick, right? Everything is going back to sunnier and sunnier, or more light and more light. And we've already kind of bypassed what is it, the equinox there? So, or the winter solstice, I think. So
yeah,
it's all uphill from here until we hit roughly June, July.
What do you got? 6 weeks.
Go back down.
You got 6 weeks for daylight saving, and then you'll be back on the same time zone we are. We don't move, so we're on the Eastern now. Yeah.
Well, time sure just is flying. That's the theme of this episode for sure.
Yes, it is. Time is flying.
And let me ask you this: one of our topics for today, I had a very interesting discussion with one of my coworkers who used to live abroad. They actually used to live in Germany. And she lived there for about 20-ish years, right? Had a husband who was from there. And it was a very interesting experience for sure. However, it became a topic of conversation about language because I was going to have her talk to one of my buddies who was deployed in Germany and have her just start spewing German at him, right? And then see if he could keep up. He most certainly could not, but you know, that's what we do. We got to mess with people to show them that we care, right?
Right.
And so the conversation went to
Deutsch.
What?
Deutsch? Yeah. Okay.
Well, he knows how to say little, such as pequeño or pico, right? Where something is actually small. I think it's pico. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Paquito.
There it is. Paquito versus pequeño, right? Where one is physically small and the other represents something else. So he does know the difference in German for that because he used to go out there and say, I speak little German. And of course it would sound like he is calling them a little German. And it's fantastic. So we got to the conversation and it rang a bell there of what were the first like 2 or 3 things that you learned to say in Spanish and maybe only learned and kind of stopped, but it's something that it's kind of humorous, but it's also kind of pertinent of how to do certain things or ask certain questions in Spanish. You recall what those were?
Well, my years that I worked for El Chico's, I had several Hispanic guys that worked with me. I was a kitchen manager. And so that's where I learned all my dirty words. But just when I came down here, it's a huge obstacle here if you don't try to learn some of the stuff. But of course, you always ask where the bathroom is. That's one of the first things you want to know.
Right.
And something very interesting here in the baños, there's no toilet paper in the baños. So you better take your own, or you better get a little small thing of Kleenex or something. Take a small roll of. Now I know why everybody has a backpack down here. They all got toilet paper.
They're bringing their supplies just to be on the safe side.
I guess they are because when you go into the bathroom, just for instance, in the mall, there's a big paper towel holder right beside where you dry your hands, and so you take the toilet paper holder on the wall. It's the big industrial thing. So you take what you think you need and then go into the stall, and there you are. And I don't know if the females are like that or not, but the bathroom, the baños, cerveza, being beer, caliente, and I might be butchering these words. Caliente was hot. Poquito was small. Yeah, because when somebody starts talking to me, I go poquito español. So I know very little. I really know none, but very little Spanish whatsoever. But it was just a few words like that. Trabajo is work.
Right. Trabajo is work. It is interesting that the first couple of things there are bathroom and alcohol. The topic of conversation that I was having with my coworker there was her husband could order a beer or order an alcoholic beverage in 4 languages, which was hilarious. I mean, of course, the guy spoke fluent German and fluent English, obviously. Well,
right.
Or maybe not as obvious, but he could order a beer in several languages. And then she said, and women know how to ask, at least this is from her perspective, where's the bathroom, right? So with a man and a woman, if you're traveling around, you got your bases covered if you want to have a good time, right? You know how to get alcohol for everybody, and you know how to drain the dew off the lily after you've had your good time, which I thought was kind of interesting in terms of, like, the bathroom I could understand almost 100%, right? However, if there was somewhere I was going to go, and I don't know if this says something about me or not, but I would want to know how to order alcohol, right? Because it seems as though it's just a very common thing. And I don't know, like, you tell me if it seems wonky that it's important for people to know how to, I would say, find transportation, right? Find a bathroom, and then how to order food. Because, I mean, that's kind of the thing that you're going to do if you're going to go to another country. I was watching something recently where someone was going to go to France, and it says, and yeah, you've learned everything you can, and you're ready to go, and you've done Duolingo and all this, all until your anxiety levels pinnacle or peak, and they're at their zenith, and then you waddle over to the self kiosk at the McDonald's, in Paris. It's something hilarious, just because people will just get stage fright, and then of course, if you're talking to a native speaker of that language, they're going to go, and they're just going to talk way too fast for you to no comprende, and it would just be kind of wild. So,
yeah, it's a huge barrier, but there's a lot of pictures of food. So if I go somewhere, I'll have that, and they'll go, okay. But it's interesting because if you go down to the beach to one of the cabanas, a mojito, a margarita, pina colada, those are, I don't know if they're international terms or worldwide terms, but they're the same drinks that you get somewhere else. They're all the same, the pina colada and the mojito, and those things, that's what they're called, and that's the way they order them. And beer down here comes in a 22-ounce bottle. When you say
Right.
I'll have a beer, then it's a 22-ounce bottle. So for like $2 and a quarter or $2.50, something like that.
What is kind of wild about the beer, or about just beverages in general, I would say outside of America, from what I've seen, is they will bring you, a gigantic bottle of something, right? So a huge bottle, and then they'll bring you this little cup, and then they'll want you to use like the 8-ounce cup for the 22, 30-ounce bottle, and you might share it too, right? We saw that when we went to the Chinese restaurant down there, where they had one bottle that was about the size of that one, and then every like 3 guys were around there, and they had like little 6-ounce cups, and I looked over at y'all and I was like, no. I'm gonna need that entire thing if I'm gonna wash all this stuff down,
That's right. And that's what they normally give you. That's why after about 2 weeks here, I went into the commissary and I bought 2 plastic tumblers that you could drop on the ground and on concrete, they wouldn't break and that kind of stuff. And I keep one under the seat of each scooter. So when I go places, like today for lunch, we went to a Chinese restaurant today for lunch. Well, I raised my seat up, put my helmet, sunglasses in there, get my cup out, shut the seat, and I go in, and it's a 12-ounce cup. I mean, it's a nice big 12-ounce cup. And she has one, I have one, because I can't do the communion cups. I mean, you're filling it, and we get the liter of Sprite, and we're just constantly filling. And I'm like, geez, man, really? So it didn't take me long to quickly go buy 2 cups. And I do that when I go to the beach. When I go to the beach, they bring the cold beer, in the big bottle. And I guess they think you're just going to drink it out of the. You got to be drinking fast, man, to be
right.
Drink 22 ounce. So I take our cups again, and then that way, if she's having a margarita or a pina colada or something, she can actually pour it in a plastic cup. Now they serve those in a 12-ounce cup, the plastic cup, not a red Solo, but it's a clear Solo is what it is.
Right. It has it's about the size of a Solo cup. So
yeah.
Which is cool. I didn't know if you know about the Solo cup, but each one of those little rims or ribs are supposed to mean something, right? One's a shot, one's this ounce, this, etc. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because there was a glass at TGI Fridays, and we used them at El Chico's also, that had you would fill it up to a certain level on that glass, and then you put ice in it, and then you'd fill it up to this certain level with alcohol, and you knew that you didn't even have to do the shot deal because you could tell by looking at the glass.
Oh, I saw that somewhere on a cup I was drinking recently. It was something where it had notches, right, or little markings on the side. And it is humorous to me that people don't order their drinks without ice. Because it's like, hey, they're filling that sucker to the brim with ice to save on food cost. I get it. I understand what's happening.
And liquor cost.
Oh, sure. Well, that's if you're getting a mixed drink, right? No, very, very rarely is someone going to give you a mixed drink without ice. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Unless you ask.
Yeah. Well, and then if you ask, the problem is they utilize the shot system, right? So you're not getting any more as opposed to like if you went to a fast food joint and said, hey, no ice. Okay, cool. You're kind of getting your bang for your buck there. Not even close, because it costs like 10 cents to fill up that cup. But at least I'm getting the full 10 cents. I'm not getting the nickel out of that.
Your drink's not get watered down either.
Correct.
If there's no ice in it, if they put ice in it and then pour the liquor over the ice, it's like, well, there goes part of your ice right there. And then your beverage or your soda is not going to be near as cold as the ice, so it's going to start melting. So there you go.
Yeah, it's very, very fun. Come on to the podcast. Talk about alcohol.
Yeah.
What's your favorite drink? Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below. What's your favorite?
That's right.
What is your favorite? Favorite beverage there?
I
definitely need to swap over. Yeah, I definitely need to swap over to just like club soda as opposed to just regular diet, I'd say regular diet soda, but diet soda, stuff like that. I can't drink anything with that, with corn syrup in it. That is just absolutely crazy. I don't know how people do it.
And the Cokes here are really, really syrupy. I've mentioned that several times. I can't do the Coca-Cola down here because I do Sprite, because obviously they don't have Mountain Dew except at one store. And the Cokes are just so syrupy. It's almost thick. So I don't do Coke.
Yeah. So that's our first kind of segment there is, language. And what's that?
You don't get a no Coke.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so languages, they're very large barriers, but we definitely have priorities when it comes to how to function when we don't exactly know the language, but we need to get by. So,
and I've
pretty crazy.
Google Translate is one of my best friends. Now, I don't normally take my phone somewhere with me unless I know that I'm going somewhere, and I go ahead while I've got my internet here and go into Google Translate. And for instance, as I was going somewhere and I needed a bag of ice. So I said, can you tell me where to buy a bag of ice, please? And so I took my phone with me. And when I got ready to go and I stopped, I went to the store and I held it up. And the guy goes, yeah, and he brings me his big, 10-pound bag of ice. And that's how I did it, instead of me trying to, I don't, because they don't. One lady that I talked to, she said, does it need to be edible, the ice? And because I guess she thought it was going to be for, drinks for dinner or something like that. And I was like, no, I'm going to throw it in a cooler with some nasty ass bottles. So, yeah. So she's like, okay.
Always fun to be in a place where you cannot consume the water.
So. You cannot consume the water. That's correct. Don't drink the water.
Well, that's fair.
So we don't.
Yeah, I would advise against it.
We buy the big 5-gallon jugs. The waterman comes to your house and he'll bring the 5-gallon jugs, and you give him the empties and he gives you the full ones.
I was going to say, or go and find yourself a Brita filter and take yourself like 2 years worth of filters down there with you and be good to go. So,
yep, there you go.
Get that water filter through there. Something else, talking about water, bad segues into the northern part of these United States. There was a wild story some people might have seen on social media websites, stuff like that, where an administration of a hospital that is up in Wisconsin tried to stop what I think, if I read the article correctly, 7 nurses from starting new jobs. And these are at-will nurses. They're not folks who sign contracts and whatnot. And this administration took them to court and tried to get an injunction put on them and said, hey, we need to have these positions backfilled before they start their new job. And to me, I thought that's just absolutely wild, because if it's an at-will state, there are no contracts being signed. What in the world's happening now? On the flip side of that, they could say, and I think they did, it's like, well, people are going to suffer, right, if you let these people go and they don't have people to backfill them, because they were a part of a trauma unit there, which I think it was like 7 of the 11, maybe 12 people who were there. So, I mean, it was several folks who were going. And it was kind of a crazy story, because one person gets a job, they interview somewhere, and then it seems as though the other company they were going to started to pick them off, right? Saying, hey, how about you, and how about you, and how about you?
Started a domino, sure.
Right, and it's kind of a domino effect. And then, hey, they're ready to go start a different job somewhere else. I'm assuming for better pay, possibly better hours, better benefits. So how in the world can this hospital try to stop them? Of course, they took them to court. A judge said, yeah, that's ridiculous. This is an at-will place. Like this, we're not going to do anything about this. And so I'm pretty sure that they're good to go. That did resolve itself. But that was something that we talked about a little bit earlier in the week. And poaching, it's in this case, seemed to be terrible. But you've seen it in the restaurant business. I mean, I've seen it in the imports business. Why does it seem like that's a bad thing, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing. In Tennessee, it's called piracy, and it's supposed to be. I don't know if it still is or not, but it's supposed to be illegal for you to enter a business and try to, like you said, poach somebody or get somebody to come to work for you. Happened in the car business when I was in the car business and the restaurant business for years, and a lot of times, recruiters will call a restaurant at 1:30 or 1:45 after they've had a hellified lunch and stuff, shorthanded and all crazy customers and everything. Are you satisfied with your job today? Are you happy where you work? And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a tactic that they used. And in Tennessee, piracy is supposed to be illegal. Like you going in and offering someone a job that's what they call it, is piracy, and it's supposed to be illegal. Now, did I offer somebody or ask? I would ask someone if they were happy. If I went through a drive-through close around where I was working, and because these are people that are working for a little more minimum wage, and they probably walk or take a bus to work and stuff. And if I got great service at a drive-through or something, and I would go around to different ones and check, I would slip them a business card and say, "Hey, if you ever get unhappy with what you're doing, give me a call." And I'd just kind of leave it at that. But your mom's in the medical industry. Your sister's in the medical industry. I know Donna and Shannon and all the ladies that are in the medical industry. I'd love to hear what they have to say about that. If somebody tried to, because Tennessee is an at-will state, they're not gonna give you notice before they fire you. Right. So why? I mean, you're being respectful and professional if you give them a notice that you're leaving. But the thing about it is people can't keep their mouth shut when it comes to.
I mean, we're living on a podcast where we talk for an hour.
Yeah, I know, right? We've never been short on words. If you're at a restaurant and you own a restaurant chain or you run a restaurant chain, you would say, "Hey, you did a great job, man. If you ever think about changing careers, give me a call." They're immediately, because of their self-worth has just grown.
Sure.
And their ego and everything, because they are doing a good job and they're doing the best job they can, they're immediately going to come back and tell, Cindy or Mindy or Wendy or Lindy, "Hey, man, that table B7, man, they just offered me a job, at so-and-so, at Texas Roadhouse or Logan's Roadhouse or, Ruth Chris's Steakhouse, hell, I don't know what all the places are, but, but I'd love to know the medical industry, because when your mom graduated LPN school and we talked to several recruiters, they talked like she was going to play in the NFL.
Oh, I have no doubt.
No, perk packages, and we'll let you a parking place right up front, and we'll give you lunch once a week, and you can have, so you'd be off every day at 5. I mean, they lined it out, man, and made each package just try to look a little more attractive than the next one. So I would have laughed all the way to the courtroom, flipping them off at the same time, going, "You can't do that." Though.
It's not that I'm asking you, do you think it's bad? We already have established that. My big question here is, why would it appear bad? Like, what's the negative from offering somebody else or from poaching somebody, like offering somebody else a better position, better benefits, whatever? What's the downside there?
In this instance, it's healthcare. That's the deal here. Now, it's going to depend on, to me, it would depend on the profession.
Sure.
Like we talked about the Secret Service making a lot of lateral moves from other federal agencies and things like that. It's going to depend on the profession, because they probably had a good case saying that you're going to traumatize my trauma unit by taking 75 or 80% of the staff. Well, you ought to have some backup, man. Everybody needs to have backup and have a game plan. especially if you're an at-will state.
Well, there was something I've read online where a lot of folks who are possibly my age, maybe a little older, but it was something where sick days, right, came up. And it was something that we would talk about, a sick day. I know some folks take a sick day just like that. They're like, nope, it ain't happening for you. Your boy, I don't take a lot of sick days. And it is something where it drives me nuts to even think about calling out. Mm-hmm. But what they've talked about online is that that's your employer's problem. That is not yours, right? That your paid time off, you may take it at your discretion, right? If you're ill or whatever.
Right.
But it always, to me, seemed like no matter like this job, previous jobs, whatever, I did not call out sick. That was not my MO. I just did not want to be in a position where it feels like
it's how you was raised.
It felt as though I was letting somebody down.
Right.
And luckily, knock on proverbial wood here, haven't been sick very much throughout my life, but it's something where if I am out, I mean, I'm down for the count. Like I would just be worthless being there, and I would be a detriment more than a helpful entity at that point. But it's something that it's purely a mindset thing, right?
Absolutely. Because they say that they're going to post your job before your body's put in the ground.
Oh, 100%.
That
100%.
So that's why there's no loyalty between employees and companies like there used to be. There used to be a little bit of loyalty, and people were proud of where they worked. Now there's no loyalty, man.
Yes, but if I'm maximizing profits, I don't give a damn about your loyalty.
They're right. You're exactly right. And I don't give a damn about your profits except for my next raise or my next vacation.
Exactly.
All right.
And so it's a crappy game or like cycle we've gotten into, it seems.
Sure. Some things you probably can't. We didn't take off in the restaurant business because, you just don't take off work in the restaurant business, because the world's going to come to an end if you're not there to serve that burrito or whatever.
See,
it's like,
you say you didn't, but I know for a fact from close sources that people call out of work in the restaurant business all the damn time. Like they just call out just like that.
Sure they do.
It's something where I don't want to say like, I don't want to sound pretentious and whatnot. It's just, we're just not the people who call out very much for whatever reason.
Restaurant business. Don't pick on the restaurant business now.
No, I'm saying you and myself, right? Or mom or whomever, like people who I'm around more often than not, say for a few people, they just don't call out. Like that's just not going to happen very often. And it's...
what about your healthcare workers?
Kind of wild.
If they call out.
Well, if they call out, they're most likely sick from helping people who need healthcare. Right?
I guess you're right about that, but...
Well, and it's something that's got to be built in, right? Like that's got to be built into their program saying you're a doctor or you're a nurse or you're a whatever, you're going to be sick, right? So that's just something that they're going to have to deal with.
Right. That makes sense.
However, something that was pretty interesting in that article and a little bit talking around it and whatnot was that for every nurse that you go above, I think it was 4 patients, the life expectancy of that extra patient, 5, 6, 7, blah, 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 goes down by like 0.7% or 7%, something crazy. Where, of course, if you put too many people or give somebody too many charges, right, too many patients, you're going to it's more opportunity to mess up, and it's not good. Because that was also talking about there's not a nurse shortage. There's a wage shortage, right? Because here's the deal. You can, in a hospital, just like many other places, you can short shift the amount of people you have on call, make more money because fewer people are doing more work. Yeah, the Pareto principle. It's ridiculous. But they're maximizing on their profits, right? Where there are nurses who are ready to go, ready to work, ready to do whatever. But a lot of times I'm seeing online, they're not getting hired. Well,
Oh,
if I can
okay.
barely function or function well enough to just not basically kill every single person who comes into the hospital, then I'm going to keep functioning the way that I am, no matter if we run it into the ground or run the people into the ground. And then it's like, cool, I'm maximizing profits, man. It's absolutely crazy.
Right. I would be interested to hear from our healthcare workers and what they've experienced over the last year. If they want to come on and
You mean
talk
last
about
2
it,
years?
or if they, last 2 years, if they want to come on and talk about it, or they want to comment, and we'll read the comments online. We don't care.
Yeah. Hey, comment down below, our healthcare workers down there.
Subscribe.
Let us know if you want to come on, or if you want to talk, like give us your story, because we'll take as long as you want to talk about it, because we know it has been wild, absolutely crazy.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. When I talked to your sister the other day when we were on, how many times did she say she had been COVID tested?
I think it
like
70 something, possibly, maybe
74 or 76 times she's been COVID tested.
Right. And she's a healthcare worker who was working the entire time that COVID was happening.
Right. That's crazy. But I mean, it's and still got COVID.
Right.
Still got COVID. Yeah.
Well, remember, she was around sick people. So.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm going to start wearing 3 masks down here, and they make a little face shield that you can put on. And then I'm going to get a little aluminum foil hat and put it on with a little antenna on it or top.
I was going to say, you might bake like a baked potato if you put aluminum foil on your head. So you be careful.
Yeah. I probably might get struck by lightning or something if I got a lightning rod up there or something.
You very well might, or they might, just strike you with something, because you'd be looking wild.
It's pretty funny down here, though, when you're riding down the road and it's rained and there's big puddles of water because the drainage system sucks. And people want to run through the water and splash you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's like, rider beware, because they're going to do that just if they can. So, yeah.
What a very wonderful place to be.
Yes. But see, that was yesterday. Today, all dried up. It's all gone. All the water's gone.
Well, remember, like we said before, when you're 3 inches away from the sun, moisture is not going to hang around for very long.
Yeah. The sun came out for like 30 minutes and just dried it all up. Yeah. Then went back behind the clouds.
Right.
But I have a couple of questions for you. One question: did you see where Slow Joe, in his infinite wisdom, called Peter Ducey a son of a bitch?
I did. That was kind of
after a press conference.
Kind of interesting, on a hot mic, and they broke it down a little bit today on Crowder, where they said, because you could hear a little bit more of what Joe said, and he said something like, inflation, that's a good thing to have, or like a good tool or something like that. And he's like, that stupid son of a bitch. It was fantastic. Just straight up like, oh.
And C-SPAN caught it on the mic.
Nice.
The White House feed cut it out, but C-SPAN caught it. And Peter Ducey didn't even hear him. He didn't know what had gone on until he got back to the press room, and somebody goes, hey man, did you hear what Joe called you? He said, no. And so then he played it back, and it's like, wait a minute. Well, Joe called him an hour later and said, it's nothing personal, pal. Never apologized.
That is fantastic. When he's like, it's nothing personal, pal.
It's nothing. Yeah, I didn't know you guys were palling around, and it's like, it's nothing personal, pal. But was interesting to me, though, but everybody that told the story would say, Joe Biden called Peter Ducey a SOB, or he called him a son of a beep. The leader of the free world just said the word son of a bitch. Why are you bleeping it out? He runs it all. He runs it all. The most powerful man in the world, the free world, and he used the word bitch, and you guys are beep, and say what he said. Why are you trying to cover it up? Well, he called this reporter an SOB. He called somebody the other day stupid. One of the reporters. I mean, this guy he's so full of shit. It's not even funny, man.
Well,
And
do you think they would have said out loud like what his, or would they have done the same for his predecessors? Not just predecessor, but everybody going down the line there.
hung them all. They would have hung all them. Obama, Clinton, Bush. It wouldn't have mattered. Throw that rope over that tree limb. Put his ass up on a horse, and we're fixing to hang him. They wouldn't let nobody. Nobody could get away with that, except Joe. But here's the thing that people are not really paying a lot of attention to is Ukraine. We have no business in Ukraine whatsoever.
Okay.
It serves no purpose to the United States of America whatsoever. Ukraine does not. The only thing that ties Ukraine to the United States is the criminals that run Ukraine have been giving the Biden family millions of dollars for many years.
Oh,
That's the only thing. Other than that, we have the USA, United States of America, has no interest in Ukraine whatsoever. If Russia invades it, so what? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. But they've got this out in front of people, and it's like, ooh, another world war. Ooh, those are your warmongers that got to have a war. They got to have a war going on. You're out of Afghanistan, which was the longest war in history. You have no borders, all the illegals, inflation, crime rates out of control. And you got all of this stuff, the supply chain crisis. I mean, you can list all of the detriment that's going on right now in the United States. Who gives a damn about Ukraine? It doesn't serve any purpose at all. But they're trying to distract you,
Right.
January 6th.
The distractions definitely come through. Something that was interesting.
We don't need a war.
You talk about
we don't need a war.
The sexy Eminem becoming less sexy, man. Tucker Carlson talking about that. Like, I didn't watch it, but just that is silly as hell. When the real story is that there are being put on charges against Mars and Hershey's and stuff like that for using child labor in other countries, man. It's absolutely crazy.
I didn't even see that.
Right, because you're too busy being shown shit about stuff that doesn't matter, and then it's like, hey, look at this. These multi-billion-dollar companies are straight up using child labor, which the U.S. just recently is putting in a ban on imports from the... I don't know how to say their names. They're the Middle Eastern group... Uyghurs? I don't know how to say it.
Right.
But
I know what you mean.
But it's the people in China who are in forced labor camps, right? Like they're actually in like the
Uyghurs
over there.
Right.
And the U.S. is banning goods from people from anywhere from that region because they are under the assumption that, hey, this is actually being made with forced labor and the U.S. will not allow those imports. So could you imagine them saying like, oh, yeah, we're not letting stuff be used by forced labor or child labor, and it's like Hershey's or Mars.
Okay.
We're going to hear some howling because there's not going to be any M&Ms, not going to be any Hershey bars, not going to be any Kit Kats or whatever. And it's like,
candy down here is a luxury. And we've discussed this before. It's a luxury. So the price of it's out of sight. I mean, M&Ms and Snickers and Milky Ways, they sell you a bag, like the Halloween bags that have the little bags in them that have like 3 pieces in them. They're like $7 or $8 for one of those bags. So we buy the knockoffs that for $1 and get twice as many peanut M&Ms. But yeah, anything down here that's got a label like that is out of sight price wise. But that's, I can see it. I can see it. Anything to make $1.
It's wild.
Now they'll quit making, tennis shoes and the NBA and the NFL. They'll stop making all that merchandise over there in China.
Well, also with Apple, I mean, same deal. This phone I'm filming on right now I'm pretty sure it was made over in China. I don't know by whom, but the one of the silliest stories I've ever seen online, and comment down below if you don't think it's silly or if I'm dumb or whatever. But there was Daniel Tosh had this as a joke too, I'm pretty sure. They had suicide nets around these buildings that they were supposedly keeping people in. And I'm laughing at the Daniel Tosh bit, not people trying to end their lives because they're being slaves. That's not saying that. But they would have these nets at the bottoms of these buildings or where would be the death fall, right? And then it would just bounce on a net. And then Daniel Tosh was like, oh, sorry, boss, just had to get some air, because it bounced you right back into the building. And it's something that stuff's crazy. I mean, it is just ridiculous, like things are going on in this world. But to the point of we have nothing to do with Ukraine. Okay. We do have a little bit of something to do with world peace or world policing to a degree, because I don't know if you know, the last time we stayed out of something, and of course I'm being facetious, but just stay with me here. I remember there was a large conflict going on. You would say it was large enough to encapsulate the entire world. And we stayed out of it until we were attacked first. And then we dropped the sun on some people. So it's a scenario, do you want to have something like that where we put atoms to atoms and then it gets that way that quickly? Or do we try to stymie this at first and then try to make it a lesser conflict, but we try to put things in place where we're like, no, none of this.
It's none of our business, and they're trying to spin it as to it's about Ukraine joining NATO. NATO doesn't want Ukraine in there. NATO's already said we don't want them in the alliance. We don't need them, and we don't want them. Too much corruption, and we don't want to be a part of it. So that they're trying to spin it like it's a NATO problem.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's in the European Union, the EU. They don't want them either. They don't care about these people because they've been corrupt for so long and up to no good for so long. And it is kind of funny. I had to spin this in there. There's a couple of senators that are investigating Hunter Biden's travels with his dad over to Ukraine and Russia. Well, they don't have any reports or any travel documents from 2010, 2011, and 2013. Well, we've talked about this. The Secret Service was in tow when Joe was traveling with Hunter. But they don't have any documents showing that. They just don't. So, and the senators are pretty pissed off about it. And the documents that they're getting from the Secret Service are redacted so bad they can't read them. They can't make heads or tails out of them. No, but they're gonna close in on these people. They're gonna close in on them. Now, I'm sure nothing will ever happen, and they'll get away with whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But they're wanting some answers about all this travel and all this business and all these millions and millions of dollars that flowed into the family through several sources, and one of them being Ukraine, where Hunter Biden was on the company called Burisma. It's a natural gas company, and he wouldn't know a gas pump from a fart. And they were paying the guy $80,000 a month to be on the board of directors.
Yeah,
because because he had the contact in the United States. So it's all bullshit, man. It's all criminal. It really is, man. It's crazy. Crazy.
Well, it is something that corruption is it in our institutions 100%. Can we do anything about it? Maybe, but not as much as we would like to in the time frame in which we would like it to be done, right?
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So, you're right. Hey, just like you mentioned, everyone get educated, go vote, get folks in positions where they need to be.
In November.
Yep.
term limits. You want term limits. You got them in November.
That
Get
would
off
be
your ass and go
absolutely
vote.
crazy if
Yes.
they ever actually self-imposed term limits on themselves. It would just be insane.
Did you see where they're trying to pass a law now in Congress where that congressional people, senators and House representatives and their staffers can no longer buy and sell and trade or own stock?
Oh, that should have been something immediately put into place, because you have people who run the country and how things are going to go, make decisions and say, okay, let's have a quick meeting with our stockbroker. Okay, cool. Go buy this, and this. Okay, and then the next day, shut the whole freaking country down. And it's like, well, it looks like some of our stocks are going to be doing really well here in the next several months.
Yeah, the mask.
Years.
Yeah, stock from the 3M mask makers or whatever. Yeah, we're going to make everybody wear a mask.
Makers, PPE sellers,
syringes.
all sorts of stuff,
absolutely. Man. Well, they're supposed to be working on a law where they can't own or purchase any more stock, and supposedly top level people in the administration are not supposed to be able to either. I mean, they're hoping to push that through.
That makes sense.
I don't never think we'll see it, but I mean, they've made millions and millions and millions of dollars. If they hadn't, their spouse or significant other has, or they might have shuffled it to a family member if they were that slick about it. But they're making tens of thousands of dollars. And it was funny. I was watching a news feed from a guy in Texas, and in his county alone, there was 150 plus people have been killed by criminals that were out on bond.
Oh, wow.
Yes. In the year from January to January, 150 plus have died at the hands of criminals out on bond. And this guy's so he's like, the judges are not even taking into consideration someone's rap sheet or their past or the current level of crime that they're involved in, and they're just letting them go. They're either getting a small, like $5,000 bond. We only pay $500. And I found this very interesting. He said, or you get the taxpayer free bond. I've never heard of that. Have you ever heard of a taxpayer free bond? Man. Yeah. It's like, what? This is in Texas, and it's like, they're just letting them out and they're killing people because they're letting them out. The district attorney is not enforcing, the law or putting anybody behind bars or whatever. It's out of control, man. It's out of control. And I think they ought to shoot more of them. The Life in General podcast does not condone.
Questions later. Yeah.
The Life in General podcast does not condone any violence or bodily harm.
Exactly. Okay.
To anyone in Texas.
So something that people are running on now, from what I've seen, because district attorneys, aren't they elected people?
Some of them.
Like the actual.
I think I'm not up on. George Soros pays into most of their campaigns.
Right.
At that level, yeah.
Right. That we've talked about that a little bit before as well. But something that people are running on nowadays is just going to put less people behind bars, and of course, they're coming at it from an angle of equality, right? Where there have been stories online where people are either killed in jail or they die waiting on their court date because they can't make bail because they're poor, and they're poor for pretty specific reasons, right? And yada yada. But sometimes they're actually wrongfully accused. Well, the problem is, before they can even get in front of a judge and do what they got to do and plead their case and get with a lawyer and yada yada, they just can't, and then they can't get out. And so they're just stuck in jail. And so that could be one of the reasons why they are having a bond sort of scenario where it's like, oh, well, cool. This person, like, the problem is it's that old adage of, like for the death penalty specifically, where they would say, okay, would you kill one innocent man, but have the death penalty for 1,000 correct convictions?
Yes.
You're saying you would?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what if that innocent man's me?
I'm a firm believer in the death penalty.
Okay, so I didn't do anything. I die haphazardly because of a bad case or whatever, and then they kill 1,000 people. You're all right with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, well, peace. Hey, it's the Life in General podcast.
It's nice talking to you.
Yeah, it's like beep, 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 beep. That's all, folks. Right.
Yep. Yeah, that it's the defund the police crap. The judge is not looking at the record, or he wouldn't end up in jail. If they belong in jail, they should be in jail. If he would
how do we know if they actually belong in jail, right?
Do they have a record? Do they have a record? Or is this guy you're in jail because you didn't pay your child support. Okay. But this guy over here's in jail because he murdered a New York policeman this weekend, and his other partner is hanging by a thread in critical condition. Okay. But you're both in jail.
Right. So
because the paperwork, you're not going to get the needle or the electric chair for not paying your child support.
That's correct.
It ain't happening. Right.
Well, hey, but there have been cases.
Watch yourself. I won't even take a lunch break. Two at a time.
There have been cases.
Sit down. Sit down.
People have been wrongly convicted,
Oh, I'm sure there have been. And there's so many other cases with all the police officers across the country that were shot this past weekend or this past week. Out of control, man. We've talked about messing with people that have a badge and a gun. The two New York guys were responding to a domestic call, a domestic disturbance, ambushed when they got there. And were asked by the 911 operator, does anyone there have a gun? 3 times. Is there a gun on the premises? No. Is there, you're calling in this thing. Is there a gun? Any firearms on the premises? No. Shot 2 police officers, killed one of them. Yeah. Ridiculous.
So, well, let's not conflate like, hey, we feel really emotional about this versus talking about general morality. I understand that's a very terrible situation, especially being taken by surprise, right? Ambush, something like that. I mean, it's always horrible when the men and women protecting us from the evils of this world, anything ever happens to them. Like, that's truly horrible, and we definitely appreciate you all putting your life and limb out there.
Oh, yes. Yes. First responders.
Right.
Healthcare workers. Firemen. Policemen. Troopers. National Guard. Armed Forces. I mean, nobody gets enough thanks or enough equipment or enough money or enough backup to do what they need to do. Nobody does, man. Not anymore. Defund the police. How stupid is it? It even sounds stupid.
Well, one thing that I saw online that was pretty humorous, it had to be on one of the news feeds that I look at, is, of course, it was a person who was, I don't know, a mayor or a governor or something of a city or a town or whatever. And they were a very large advocate of defund the police on the outset, right? Then a year later, when crime has skyrocketed, they said, we're going to put things into place where we are not going to stand for this sort of thing and engage more officers and more protection and all that. And it was just silly how, just like we're kind of talking about here, you want to defund those programs, and then when people are dying, being looted, etc., being robbed and whatnot, being assaulted, then, you have to then go back on it. and say, oh, we're actually putting plans in place and programs in place where we're not going to stand for this. And it's like the only way that that's going to change is if you have more officers and have better trained officers and whatnot. So,
right. Well, they're not going to do nothing until something happens in their neighborhood or somebody makes them. There was I think she was in the House of Representatives. I don't think she was a senator. Got carjacked. Yeah. Carjacked, buddy. Somebody stuck a gun in her face. Yeah. And got in her car and drove off. Ooh, well, there's a big stink about that.
I bet.
For about 5 minutes.
Well, but that's the thing. We, us as the world has the attention span of a goldfish, right?
Yep, that's correct. And in November, it's going to tell the tale. So don't come crying after Election Day if shit don't go your way, because you got the power and the knowledge to change it. For sure. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
The Life in General is saying, don't come knocking if you ain't happy with the results that you have some but very little
participated in. Yeah, that's right.
So
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, you're right. We gotta get out there, become educated, vote, make sure. Something that I've never been a huge fan of is pushing agendas onto others and whatnot, depending on what it was about, right? But with the whole like political landscape, that is something that definitely I try to stay away from in terms of talking politics with people and whatnot, because several of my constituents, LOL, I have some very liberal amigos. And it is something where, there are some topics or some things that agree on 100%. Hundy P, no problem. Some things also that aren't more liberal centered agree 100%. But then there's stuff that, I mean, they're going to die on that hill. And that's just how it's going to be. And they're going to think that you're stupid for having a difference in opinion, because they very well might be in an echo chamber of their own.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. You can be liberal, but don't be stupid. So there's a difference. Not much, but
well, the humorous part there is they would say, I mean, right back at you. I mean, you can be conservative, but don't be stupid. And then they would chuckle under their breath too and say, well, what's the difference? Right. So it's something you gotta be wise. You gotta be thoughtful, be mindful, because everybody who you have a conversation with is a person. They have their own struggles. They have their own life story, et cetera. And you just got to remember that.
Right. Most of them can't understand me down here. So
I believe we are saying that is fortunate for all parties involved.
Yes. I'm struggling as much as they are down here. So, yeah. Yeah, Pat gets on me all the time when I start ranting, and she said, you don't know who can understand you and who can't. I'm like, okay, if they can understand, then God bless them. If they can't, then God bless them. So
I was going to say, you'll figure out who can understand you.
I try not to get too crazy.
Well, you'll figure out who can understand you. That's the one who smashes a bottle up the side of your head when you're not looking.
That's right. That's exactly right. Like the policeman I saw riding on the motorcycle with his phone today, riding his motorcycle down the main drag.
Wow.
Cars going, trucks, buses, everything. He's riding there. He's got his bike, the national police, the policia, riding a motorcycle. He's got his phone right here in his face. And he went by, and I told Pat, I said, did you see that? No, well, police on the phone.
Jeez, man.
Incredible. Yeah.
That's something else, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
Have you gotten the camera up and running? Have you figured out how to film?
I told you we charge the batteries, and I set the batteries on top of the box, and I set it over to the side. And every time I get on the bike, I'll pull up beside her and go, forgot the camera again. She's like, oh, crap, man. So, yeah, not yet. So it'll have to be.
That's fine. Have you filmed anything with it at all? Just to see how it works?
No.
Perfect.
No, we hadn't put a battery in it yet, but I can't for the next couple of days, but
Right.
I was going to ask somebody to film something for me.
Okay.
She goes, I don't think they'll do that. I said, why not?
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Just put it around your neck and let it, let the cameras
Hang
just
around,
sit right there.
Yeah, just flapping around and shit.
Yeah, while you're doing things. Yeah.
That'll be silly, but oh my goodness. Well, you've hit your hour mark. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about today, good sir?
Yes, I want to talk about the healthcare workers, and thank you very much for taking care of us. And like, comment, subscribe. Come on. Be with us. Tell us what you think about. Have you ever been poached? Have people ever come to you and wanted you to go somewhere else? Tell us how that works.
I really thought you
interesting.
were. I thought you were doing a clap back where it's like, "Come on, honey," that.
No,
That's great.
No, I just think that'd be interesting to see.
Cool.
If somebody tried to steal somebody from somewhere else.
Sure. Well, we're all about it. Well, and we're trying to steal their time. So
that's right.
We are poachers as well, right?
That's right. Subscribe. And
smash the like button, tickle the bell, comment down below on what we should talk about next time, or if you want to be on, hey, let us know. It has been always a pleasure getting to talk with you all and spend this hour with you. So thank you also very much for watching the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. 46 subs. We're almost there to 50. Woo woo.
Yes.
That's good stuff. And we will catch you all in the next episode.
See you.